The 22nd ever podcast, BC's Pro Wrestling Amplified podcast. I believe we're at the 22nd. I can't believe that, man. Seems like just yesterday we were making episode number 1. I call this a podcast, of course, because we usually go around a full hour or near that full hour mark on these videos. So I know that a lot of you can't just sit down in one place at one time and watch the full hour. So I encourage you, if you can't do such, go to the gym, go to the supermarket, run your errands, do what you gotta do. If the kids are running around the house, pop in some earbuds, and while you're doing your household chores, you got the Amplified Man going. But absolutely, you don't have to just watch this mug for a full hour. You can just listen to me. It is a longer video. That's why I call it a podcast and not a long video cast. Anyway, we got a lot to go over in this podcast. We're going to start off with the biggest story of the week. I promised you guys earlier in the week that I would discuss this on the podcast as the main story, and that is, of course, Seth Rollins and basically pissing off the entire wrestling community, all the other organizations, fans. One of the most beloved pro wrestlers, Seth Rollins, became one of the most hated, actually, this week. But we'll go over that. We're going to go over the CM Punk, Colt Cabana lawsuit. That's right, there's another one. We're going to discuss a little bit more, the more details that we have anyway, of Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff joining WWE in a much different role this time. Executive directors. Paul Heyman for Raw, Eric Bischoff for SmackDown. I made a video yesterday about it, gave my initial thoughts. We got some more details now. We'll go over that as well. So, that and a lot more over the course of the next hour-ish. I want to jump right into this Seth Rollins story because there's a lot to go over. I'm going to detail with actual quotes, so I'm going to give you facts on what Seth Rollins said, among others, and then I'm going to give my thoughts probably throughout these quotes and afterwards. I just want to first give my initial thoughts on this. Before I go over the comments that Seth Rollins made, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. There's 2 reasons why Seth Rollins finally snapped and kind of broke down. Right? Everything was weighing on this guy's shoulders, and he finally just broke down. And he let the Twitter machine and his social media, everybody that could view it, he let everybody have it. But what made him break down? 2 things. One was seeing Jon Moxley go over to AEW and get that type of reception, to have the entire pro wrestling world, when Seth Rollins is the WWE, the Universal Champion, and yet it's Moxley that is getting all the adulation. Moxley is making front page news. Moxley has all the headlines. And meanwhile, Rollins is basically an afterthought because all the fans are upset with WWE. WWE is not giving us anything to be excited about. AEW is. AEW is going above and beyond already to get you excited. And bringing in Moxley, they knew that that was going to garner that type of excitement. So that's a big news story. And here it is, one of Seth Rollins' good buddies. He goes over, he leaves WWE when Rollins is champion, mind you. And he goes over there and he makes this huge splash and he gets all the headlines. And Rollins is like, what the fuck? What do I have to do? I feel like I'm the best in the world. Rollins probably thinks that. He does, actually, from his quotes. And yet, Moxley? Dean Ambrose? Probably to Seth Rollins, you know? Not just Jonathan Good, not just Jon Moxley, but Dean Ambrose from WWE. That's what Rollins is thinking. He's getting all the headlines? What about me? I'm the champ. I think that drastically weighed on him. That and Becky Lynch. I honestly think, guys, that once he hooked up with Becky, not hooked up, I shouldn't say hooked up. Once, that's a bad, they're dating. But once he kind of started dating Becky Lynch, if you notice, that's when he started coming on social media and there was this new edge to him. He started poking the bear. He started pissing people off. Well, that was Becky Lynch's gimmick. You can't tell me that him and Becky Lynch did sit down one night or lay in bed one night and Becky Lynch wasn't just like, you gotta get more edgier on social media. You got to use that to your advantage. You have to express your feelings on social media. If you're pissed off, let people know about it. It's only going to help you. It'll raise your stock. Get with the times, Seth. That's Becky Lynch's probably her speech, if you will, to Seth Rollins. So Rollins went and tried it, and it totally backfired. Now the whole wrestling community, not the whole, but a lot of motherfuckers, wrestlers, organizations, and fans are pissed at Rollins. And it didn't work because Rollins is not the type of person to go on social media and just start using that as his weapon. Seth Rollins, he's a lot like me. That's why I can kind of identify with this. Rollins is more of a I'd rather just step in front of you, smash you in your face type of a guy. He doesn't want to just talk about it on social media. He'd rather deal with you in person, step to step, face to face. Let's see who's better. That's the type of person Rollins is. In this new day and new era, a lot of people just want to talk a lot of shit on social media, though. And Becky Lynch is damn good at that. Rollins, not so much. He says this shit. He's a beloved figure in the pro wrestling world, and he says all this shit, and people are like, that's not Seth. That's just not this guy, you know? He's different. He usually takes the high road. He usually deals with his shit in person. And when it does not work that way, and he goes about it the other way and starts using social media as his weapon, a lot of his own fan base even was kind of like, that's not work, bro. He even had one person actually try to help him out. And he actually said, like, Seth, I love you, dial it down. And Seth was like, no, I ain't dialing anything down. It's about time people heard this. So I congratulate him. I don't know if that's the word, congratulate. I understand that he wanted to express that, and he used social media in that format and in that way. I mean, that's what it can be used for, right? But he had to have known that a lot of people were not going to take to it kindly. He had to have known that. He's not Becky Lynch. It worked with her. Seth Rollins, we already know who he is, what he is, and that's why people love him. When you totally try to change up your character, if it's bullshit, people will see through it. I'm not saying his words are bullshit. I totally believe everything he said he's truly feeling. But that's not why people love Seth Rollins. And now to see him just lashing out at everybody, he held this frustration and anger in for so long, and now he's just lashing out. It's not a good look, and it's not a good fit to a lot of people. That's my initial outlook on this, guys. My initial take. That is my initial thoughts on this whole Seth Rollins spiel. Now I'm going to go over exactly what I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys know exactly what I'm talking about and you're in the loop. But these are the actual quotes. But again, as I'm reading this, keep in mind, these are his thoughts all along. And then you had Moxley getting all the headlines. You had Becky Lynch probably in his ear telling him, look how I use social media and look what it's done for me. These things added into the way Seth is feeling. I assure you guys. Now this is where it started. Sunday afternoon. When Rollins tweeted out, or Sunday evening, Rollins tweeted out, best pro wrestling on the planet, meaning WWE. And right there, he had to have known he was poking a bear that probably shouldn't be poked, because we all know that's bullshit right now. The WWE is not captivating anybody. The excitement is far from there. There is no excitement in WWE. We like Seth Rollins, absolutely, but if you're just going to keep throwing Baron Corbin in there, the fans are trying to tell you, Vince McMahon, that it's boring. And it's actually not the best wrestling because you're in there with Baron Corbin. So the fans are trying to tell him, and Seth Rollins is basically just getting frustrated at the fans and not where it should be placed, the frustration, which is on the McMahons. So he gets backlash right off the gate on Sunday. So then it comes to Monday. Seth Rollins at this point has had a good 12 to 15 hours of backlash. And instead of saying, listen, this is what I meant, he doubled down. You gotta respect that in one way. But again, with Seth Rollins, it just doesn't fit. So he says, doubling down, best pro wrestling on the planet. Find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it, as often as I do it. You can't. So then, Will Ospreay, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, innocently, he just tweets over to Seth Rollins, I'm alive. Innocent as fuck. I literally just felt this was innocent. I'm alive. Like, hey, that would be cool. Me and you. You know, get the fan. It's interesting. Get the fans talking. Wow, could you imagine that match? That'd be really cool. And you're in the same community. You're all pro wrestlers, man. No matter what branch you're under. Yes, you have loyalty to your brand, your company. You're a company guy, no question. But at the end of the day, you're independent contractors. Don't forget, they don't love you that much. The McMahons don't love you that much that they're gonna give you health insurance or they're gonna give you all these bells and whistles. No, no, no. As soon as they're done with you and they use you up, they'll throw you to the curb. We've seen that time and time again. So, you know, there has to be this brotherhood between the wrestlers. I think Ospreay was just saying, hey, I'm alive. Let's have a fun little conversation. And Rollins, who still is just getting bombarded probably at this point, and he's kind of in defense mode, Rollins responded to Will Ospreay by saying, "Aw, I'm sorry, little guy. We already have a better version of you here, and he just won his first US title tonight. Congrats, Ricochet. Keep working hard, though, buddy." So this is what I mean about even Seth Rollins' fans going, that's not the Rollins I like. He's very condescending in his tone, right? He's calling somebody who's very respected in the pro wrestling world like Will Ospreay, he's calling him little guy and buddy. Work harder, though, buddy. You know, and those are the things, man. It's kind of like, was that necessary? Ospreay wasn't trying to poke back at you. He was trying to create something with you. And this had a lot of people really coming at Rollins now. Even Ospreay, Will Ospreay actually said, this is a quote, his response. It's like, dude, you brought another person into it in Ricochet. You don't have to do that. You can just be like, oh, okay, maybe we can have a match one day. Maybe it gets under his skin that my junior championship means more than his universal championship. Who knows? But it's factual, he said. So he's saying exactly what I was telling you guys. I think a lot of this is weighing on him. That IWGP and those championships are getting all the headlines. Jon Moxley in AEW is getting all the headlines. Rollins in WWE is not. And Rollins is their lead guy, one of them, with the championship. So I think Rollins is feeling the burden of that. But it's not Rollins' fault. It's the McMahons. Rollins knows it's not the best wrestling on the planet right now. It could be, with all the superstars they have, but McMahon won't let them be. So Rollins shouldn't be lashing out at fans. He should be lashing out at the McMahons. But of course they're not going to do that. We've seen this time and time again. Whether it was Paige or Baron Corbin or Xavier Woods, I can go on and on. Rollins is just the latest in many that just are afraid to stand up to the actual problem. But he took it out on Ospreay. One fan was so disgruntled, he left a message to Rollins, and Rollins actually responded to this disgruntled fan and said, I don't care about goodwill. Rollins said, I care about respect. And if some kid who thinks he's got it all figured out wants to step to me, then he's going to get patted on his head and sent on his way. And so will you. So Rollins is still talking about Ospreay. If he thinks he's a know-it-all, he wants to step to me, I'm going to pat him on his head and go on his way. Still talking down to him. Still in a condescending tone. Like he's just some punk kid that doesn't know the business just because he's never been in WWE. Kind of pretentious, kind of a little pompous if you think about it. Conceited to another level. And again, that's not why people love Seth Rollins. Or at least his diehard fans. And to say to the fan too, so will you. He's telling the fan, you take a fucking hike too. Jericho had to chime in because Rollins at this point was just like, he was getting to be a little much. Again, I told you guys earlier in one of his tweets, I think it was the Doubling Down, best pro wrestling on the planet. On that tweet, one of his friends or buddies or one of his followers with a blue check mark, he was actually like, I love you, Seth. You gotta dial it down. And Rollins refused. So his own people close to him were trying to say, hey man, relax. You're pissing people off that this doesn't need to be. So Jericho responded and said, sorry Seth, he's bigger than you, because he kept calling him little guy. And so Jericho kind of got fed up, and he's like, what do you mean little guy, man? He's 6'3", you're 6'2", right? Or 6'2", 6. It was 1 inch difference. but Jericho's saying he's actually bigger than you or taller than you. So he was definitely pissing other people off, man. There was a list, actually, of wrestlers that kind of got pissed off by this. I'm not going to go through it because there's also a list in WWE that kind of had Rollins' back, like Roman Reigns and the Usos. So that's what I mean. There was a little battle going on here. But I wanted to wait, as I told you guys earlier in the week. I didn't want to just make an impromptu video. I wanted this to be a part of the podcast because I want to see if Rollins maybe did apologize a little bit or kind of take a step back or explain himself a little more that maybe his own fans could kind of understand a little more. Okay, that's why he's frustrated. He did do that, but he did it in a way where he kind of tripled down. And he did it with Sports Illustrated Media's podcast. And I'm going to read you guys an exact quote. It's a little lengthy, but you really got to understand where Seth Rollins is coming from. And in order to do such, I have to say this word for word. I want to thank Wrestle Inc. for putting this in kind of one little bundle for me. So again, this is from Sports Illustrated Media Podcast, and Wrestle Inc. kind of put it all together for me. This is Seth Rollins' quote. This was just in the last 48 hours. You can only sit back and read people bashing what you love for so long and sit there and take it and try to take the high road, so to speak. I'm real proud of what I do every single week. Not just Mondays, but every single Friday. Saturday, Sunday, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. I'm real proud of what I do and what our crew does and the effort we put forward. And I'm not just talking about just the wrestlers. I'm talking about the guys and the girls you see out of the ring. I'm talking about everybody from creative. That's our problem, Seth. Everybody in creative all the way up to Vince McMahon. So he's even giving McMahon dabs that he's going above and beyond, giving us what we want. This is where I mean there's a disconnect now between people and Seth. He goes on to say, we put a ton of effort into making a product that I think is pretty darn good considering the amount of content we put out there. The fact that people want to sit on their soapboxes, on their stupid social media machines and talk down about it really speaks volumes about the generation and where we're at. I figured if someone is going to fight back, it might as well be me, since I am the champion and consider myself the top guy in our company. Well, Roman might have a little problem with that, because Roman cut a video about maybe 6-9 months ago, whatever it was, talking about how he had the key, that was his words, right? The keys to the locker room, he said. And he said he's the locker room leader. He's the top dog now. Well, Rollins is saying, no, buddy, it's me. You got Moxley over there, the third member of the Shield. He's like, fuck you motherfuckers. I went elsewhere and I'm the talk of the town. But Rollins is now contradicting what Roman said 6 to 9 months ago. It was right before he went through that battle that he went through. Roman was saying he is. So now, Roman said he was. So now Rollins is saying he is. So it's interesting to see who the real top guy in the company is. There can only be one. That's why it's called the top. Anyway, Rollins said that he feels he can be the voice of the WWE locker room to those who criticize the WWE product. Rollins added that WWE performs at a higher level than any other company, considering its lengthy travel schedule, numerous matches, and heavy training routines. So Rollins is basically saying, anyone who talks crap about WWE, wrestlers, fans, anywhere, I'm now going to be the guy to shut them up. Well, Rollins has to know he's in big trouble because there is 90% wrestlers and fans that think WWE is trash today. So buckle up, Buttercup, because you got your battle about to be put forth, and it is a long, hard, strenuous battle that you are about to embark on. He goes on to say, he's not even done tripling down. I hope that I speak for the other talent. I've got a lot of friends in the locker room we've had conversations like this before. I hope that I'm speaking up for them. I've had people come up and talk to me about it. I had Roman Reigns hit me with a hard retweet and exclamation point the other night. It's time to stop taking it in the gut. To hell with it. People want to talk, let them talk, but it's time to fire back. I'm just sick of it. I hope it's a rallying cry. And I hope it is something that the rest of our talent feels they can speak out about it. If they feel the same way, they don't have to take this high road all the time. Or if they want to if they want to let their voice be heard, this is worded a little fucking weird. If they want their voice to be heard, I'm fine with that too. Wow, you have Rollins' permission to fire back at the fans or other wrestlers that don't like their position in the company. It's a rallying cry. Fans are going to be put in their place. Wrestlers will be put in their place. You got to be a company man and gal. If they feel the same way. They don't have to take this high road all the time. I'm a thinker, man. I think about stuff. I put this stuff on my brain. I run through it. I wonder. Maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's not frustrations that are boiling over. These are the conclusions I've come to. After watching what I've seen from other companies and other people and what they say and what they do, there's just no one else on the planet in entertainment who do what we do. They just don't do it. So you can talk about these other guys and other promotions, basically talking about Moxley, who think they're the best in the world or offer a superior product or whatever, but they do not run 500 live events a year. 500 plus live events a year. That's top talent working over 150 matches a year on top of all the travel, on top of all the media, on top of all the training. Trying to stay in the best shape so we look like wrestlers, not some jabronis in gym shorts who get into a ring and do high spots. So he's poking on a lot of wrestlers in that scenario, all the high flyers. What we do, no one else does. The level that we work at constantly, no one else works at. I dare anyone, anywhere, any other company in the planet to challenge me on that. So this cat was just lashing out at everybody, not just fans, not just his own peers, other organizations. I mean, he just didn't care. And then when I think the brigade was on, the barrage, his defense mechanisms just kicked in, and it was just double down, triple down, quad down, just keep going, fight through. And that's cool. I admire that, but you gotta use your dome piece too. You gotta know which hills to fall on. And I just don't think that picking every single hill and thinking you're going to win all these, come on, bro. I mean, I think what frustrates me is that he didn't need to be the martyr in all this. He didn't need to be that guy to be doing all this. He already had all of our respect. The issue is WWE sucks today. That would be my message to Rollins, honestly, if there was a face-to-face. We don't mind you, bro. Most of us love you, bro. We thank you for your athleticism and your entertainment and your wrestling and everything that you do as a whole, as a package. We thank you for putting your body on the line. We thank you. We can't thank you enough. The WWE sucks. The storylines are non-existent. The feuds nobody cares about. Characters? What are those? Larger than life? Please. I could keep going on and on. There's no excitement. There's no intrigue. The product sucks. Can it be the best wrestling on the planet with that roster? 1,000,000%. Is it today? Not even close. So when you make a statement, you gotta back it up. You guys know on this channel, I always back everything up because I deal in just facts. I try to stay away from opinions as mostly as I can. I try to do such. I know that running a channel like this, you gotta give a lot of your opinion. But I try to base everything in facts. Whether I gotta print shit out, sit there with a fucking highlighter so you guys get all the information, write in notebooks, print shit constantly. I'm always doing my research and my homework for you guys because I want to deal in facts. That's what separates this channel from every other channel. Those channels are opinion-based. Mine, I want to be fact-based. That's why I say it's the most truthful reality. When it comes to pro wrestling anyway, the most reality, the most truth you're going to get on this platform. It's because I deal with all facts. WWE sucks. I'm giving Seth Rollins, Baron Corbin, Xavier Woods, and everybody else that I've had to make vids about. I have been telling you, it ain't just you, dog. It's about the company. And if you just put your frustration where it should be, which is on the McMahons, on the suits and ties, and not on the fans, We're trying to tell you we're frustrated because we're not entertained. It is not fun anymore. It's not exciting. But instead of going to McMahon's and telling them, listen, we should change this up, a big portion of our fan base, the majority now, is not loving this shit. Instead of doing that, you're taking it out on fans. You're taking it out on your former friends who went elsewhere and they're getting all the adulation because that's fun. That's exciting. That's interesting. It's intriguing. You're taking it out on other companies or other stars or right there in your own company, your own peers that are voicing their frustrations. You're basically saying, that's not how we're going to do business anymore. We're all going to be company men and women and we're all going to toe the company line. We're going to stand up for Mr. McMahon. And when people voice their displeasure, we are going to combat it. Those are your words. You're going to fight back, fire with fire. What are you fighting back for, bro? We're telling you it sucks. The company is not the best in the world right now. The company sucks. What are you gonna try to tell us? It's a fact. You're giving us a lie. We're giving you the facts. That's not open for discussion. The product sucks. I don't want to hear little Larry Stevens in the middle of Oklahoma that's like, BC, I really like this though, man. The action is fast-paced and tremendous. Larry Stevens, that's great for you, man. Actually, isn't that Alexa Bliss's pig? Larry Steve? Maybe that's where I got that from. That's the cutest fucking pig, man. Yes, Alexa Bliss actually has a fucking pet pig. Anyway, I'm going off track. The point is, I'm not saying some people that Vince can't just feed them anything and they'll accept more. Please, sir, can I have some more? And they'll keep eating that shit that Vince gives them. I'm not saying there's not plenty of fans that'll eat shit all the time. You keep feeding it to them, they'll keep eating it. But anyone with a fucking brain in their dome piece is going to tell you, Seth, and anyone else that tries to stand up to your peers or to the fans or to other wrestlers and other companies, when we tell you WWE sucks, it's because we're trying to make it better. We're trying to tell anybody that'll listen in that company, help! It's a fucking crying call. Help! All of us! You don't have to always fight everybody, bro. Sometimes we're trying to help. And a lot of times that's through critiquing. And it might come off as just negative. It might seem like it's too much to bear. You're the champion. You want the company to be talked about in a high, good way, in a highlight, and highlighted. I understand that, bro. It's just not the case. You're the champion at a really bad time right now, where the McMahons have pretty much given up. Vince is all about his XFL. This is an afterthought, WWE. You know, maybe Bischoff, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but maybe Bischoff and Paul Heyman can do something with that. Who knows? Maybe this is just all for show. And this time, if WWE fails, we can blame Bischoff and Heyman. You know, I don't know, but we're trying to help. So now this new Seth Rollins is what? Gonna battle every single person, fan or wrestler, that complains about WWE or has something negative to say. You're gonna step up and be the fucking savior? Bro, you will lose that battle. And I like ya. I do, bro. You're one of the best fucking wrestlers alive today. No question. That's why all of this isn't really needed. We're trying to help, bro. You know what I mean? Be happy for Moxley. Be happy he's getting that success over there. Be happy that you have other places to go if one day Vince treats you like shit. I hope that doesn't happen. Because then you're going to be eating a lot of crow. You're going to be eating a lot of shit, bro. Karma's a bitch, and when you try to tear down everybody, Lord forbid it happens to you one day. Be careful how you treat everyone on the way up. Because you'll be seeing those same people on the way down. It's a whole different outlook, depending on which way you're going. Right now, it's a bed of roses. You consider yourself the guy, you got the championship, you found a nice, tight spot in the company, Triple H is high on you, Vince is high on you. You can do no wrong. That's great. Hopefully that stays with you, man. But I've seen in this company too many times that when Vince is done with you, you'll slowly slide down back into mid-card. Slowly slide down at the beginning of the card. Sometimes you won't even be shown it. Before you know it, Seth, you ain't happy. Just saying. Just saying. This is not what needs to be done, man. But who am I to talk for you? You are in the business. you don't like the way these kids are being brought up, and you think it's talking down to you, and you think fans shouldn't complain, and wrestlers in that company definitely shouldn't complain because they should be company men. But, man, when you're so frustrated where you work and you did love this, it was a passion of yours, and you just want to see it do better, you believe in yourself, wouldn't you complain? Wouldn't you say something? Wouldn't you be not happy and voice your... Or would you just say, fuck it, let's just fucking put McMahon on a pedestal? Come on, you tell Rusev that, bro. You tell Rusev to shut up. And that it's Rusev's fault he's not over. Bro, remember Rusev Day? It was loud as fuck. I wasn't totally on board with him and Aiden English because I felt over time that would get stale. But Rusev, if done correctly, could have been over as a heel. Forget Rusev Day. As a heel, him and Lana, if given the right push, would have been something. But then on top of that, you see Rusev Day, and that just gets brushed aside. And you're going to tell Rusev to shut up? It's his fault? Rusev could have been Zack Ryder? You're going to tell Zack Ryder to shut up? When he could have been something during that fucking his heyday? When everybody was cheering for him and Vince shut it down quickly? You're going to tell Sasha Banks to shut up? When Sasha Banks easily was something in that company and Vince did everything in his power to brush her to the side. To the point where she can't even be there anymore. You're going to tell Luke Harper to shut up when this guy's got some fucking talent at his size and he won't even be utilized correctly or even used? You're going to tell Neville to shut up when this guy knows his talent and he's being asked to job to Enzo for 7 straight house shows and on TV and drop the belt too while you're at it? These people are going to get together and tell you to shut up. What am I? I'm flicking the pen. I still got a half an hour to go. What am I saying? That's all I'm going to say about it, guys. Again, I still have respect for Rollins, man. This isn't even me, like... I'm just saying, man, this is a heated situation. I feel he's poking too many bears and pushing too many buttons that doesn't need to be fucked with. This guy is respected in pro wrestling. He has a passionate, respectable fan base that respects him. And it's like, this is, it's just dividing people. For what? For what? Who are you arguing with? We're trying to make it better. That's why everyone's good. Your peers are pissed. Help them. Don't just stick up for your boss, bro. What is that old line? Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. This isn't that type of situation. You got to go to McMahon and say, tell Vince. You got to look at your talent. If you're a real company locker room leader, then you got to tell Vince, you got to look at your roster and say, not what can you do for me, what can I do for you guys? If Vince starts asking that question, maybe we're getting somewhere. All right, speaking of getting somewhere, we do have to move on, man. That was about a half an hour covering that one topic. But that's why I had to wait to the podcast. I knew that was going to be a long fucking journey of explaining that and really getting my thoughts across. And while at the same point trying to give you guys the facts. But, like in any podcast, we got to move on. That's why it's a podcast, man. We got to cover a plethora of issues and topics and stories in 1 fucking hour. Can it be done? Well, now we're going to go through a fucking speed round. Let's talk a few minutes just about Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. I put up a video yesterday on how Eric Bischoff is now this is from Vince McMahon in WWE. This is official, confirmed. Eric Bischoff is the new executive director of SmackDown. That means he is in charge, according to the print that we saw yesterday. And this was the absolute most official print that came out to the media, is that the only person he will be reporting to is Vince McMahon. So Eric Bischoff, executive director of SmackDown. Paul Heyman is now the new executive director of Monday Night Raw. And the only person he will be answering to, just like Bischoff for SmackDown, Paul Heyman in Raw, he will be answering only to Vince McMahon. Now, you can look at it both ways. One way, hey, they're in charge. There's only one person they have to answer to. Not all the suits and ties, not a whole chain of people, chain of commanders, just one. That's the good news. The bad news, that one guy is the guy that vetoes everything that's fun, anything that's exciting. That one guy is Vince McMahon. That one guy is who everyone's saying is more out of touch than anyone. And he just happens to be the owner of WWE. He just happens to be, they're publicly traded, the majority shareholder owner, right? Whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? And now you have this one guy just like hanging over what Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff need to do. These are two minds that even at their age, even now, Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff can turn shit around. They actually listen to fucking people. They have a pulse still of the wrestling business. Man, I raised the question in yesterday's video. Does Vince step aside and let them do their job? Or is this all just a ploy? Is this still just Vince McMahon making all the final decisions? The only difference now is if things go wrong, if people bitch, complain, they're negative, they critique, now it falls on Heyman and Bischoff. That's what I asked in yesterday's video. These are two people that Vince McMahon had battles with in the past. And these are two people that people keep saying, oh, remember when Bischoff was around with WCW? That was the day, man. Bischoff knew what he was doing. Paul Heyman with ECW, he knew what he was doing, man. He brought fun back to wrestling. And that's when it was interesting. And Vince McMahon's out of touch. So maybe this is the McMahon's way of saying, yeah, you want your precious Heyman. You want your precious Bischoff. I'm going to give them to you on a silver platter. And then all of a sudden, nothing will change. But now you will have to see that they are exposed. They are not as good as you thought they were. When in reality, they are. Vince is just not putting them in a position to succeed. They're just in a position to fail because nothing will really change. Vince is going to keep vetoing all their ideas, and Vince is just going to shove what he wants, his agenda. Well, BC, he's the owner. He can do that. Well, then don't name executive directors. Don't tell the media in your press release that they are going to be leading the charge creatively. They're not. Vince needs to just be the owner, do the big decisions that need to be made. Absolutely. All of that is his input. Creatively, give that to Paul Heyman, give that to Bischoff. And worry about your XFL, as I said in yesterday's video. That's all Vince has to do right now because XFL is his baby. WWE is an afterthought to Vince McMahon, and that shows for the past several years. Now, that's all, I kind of went over that in yesterday's video. Does Vince put them in a position of success or failure? We'll find out. Now, there's new news that we have come to grab in the last 12 hours since I put that video up in the filming of right now, or however long it's been. The new news is this. First, it was reported that Fox had something to do with this initially. Those reports have been debunked until the Amplified Man sees anything at all that is an official document or a reputable source that really knows the inside of this. Every reputable thing that I've seen thus far, hours later, is showing that Fox had no signs or clues at all that Vince was even going to make these decisions. So as of right now, the filming of this video, Fox had nothing to do with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. However, as I said in yesterday's video, Eric Bischoff is going to, moving forward, work very closely with Fox. That's where Vince McMahon really thinks Eric Bischoff is more suited for, and he is. Eric Bischoff worked with TNT, Spike TV, many productions after pro wrestling. Eric Bischoff went on to do his own thing after pro wrestling that had nothing to do with pro wrestling, and he was producing shit. He knows how to work with these networks. So this is perfect. And I feel that if Fox did have any clue, maybe it would have been Bischoff in the know. And Vince was kind of like, hey, we can work with Bischoff. Maybe that would have been the inside scoop. But that would have been it. Because everything we're hearing is Fox didn't really know Vince was hiring people like Bischoff and especially Paul Heyman. So we have to find out Fox's involvement, if any, in this still. But as of right now, there's no signs that Fox told McMahon to do this, that Fox was pushing McMahon to do this. Fox is going to be told by Vince McMahon that they're going to be working with Bischoff from what we're seeing. Or hearing anyway. But that remains to still unfold. So that's the first order of business. Nobody really forced McMahon's hand on this. And that coincides with our other bit of news. We're being told that Heyman and Bischoff, these deals were in the works for a while now. So this wasn't something that just they saw ratings just in the last month, or they heard the cries of the fans, and all these wrestlers are frustrated within their own company, and they're like, we have to make a change, and they make a drastic change in like 2 or 3 weeks, and all of a sudden this announcement is made. No, this, from what we're hearing, has been for a long time now building up, especially Paul Heyman's. We know for a fact that they were trying to do something much bigger with Paul Heyman, a new contract, a new position, for many months now. Before WrestleMania, we were hearing those rumblings. And then here we are now, end of June, heading into July, and Paul Heyman finally gets this new position, but we've been hearing about that for months. Bischoff, there's no reason to believe this was just out on a whim. Just Vince woke up one morning in the last 2 weeks and said, let's get Bischoff. No, everything is pointing to this was a while in the making. And do you guys remember when the McMahons stood in the ring and they were saying change is coming and this and then right after that, about a couple weeks is when we started hearing the rumblings of Paul Heyman. So who knows? I bet you a few weeks later, maybe Bischoff was a name and they were just waiting and biding their time, and maybe they feel this is the time, right around SummerSlam. But this is not something that we are hearing anyway. This is not something that was just out on a whim in the last 2 weeks. This has been building up for a while, and they finally went ahead, signed the contracts, made the announcement. We hope this is not just a huge part of the storyline. I'm okay with seeing Heyman and Bischoff on TV because they're such dynamite characters and they can offer so much to the TV product as long as they're not overexposed. You know what I mean? Keep it to a minimum, but you can have a big, huge backstage presence and really build up stories. And, you know, if they get creative, which they can, Paul Heyman more so than Bischoff. So we hope that they're not on TV too much, like in the ring and being part of all these storylines. But from what it looks like is they will be. I mean, even Seth Rollins, he was asked by a fan, do you think it's fair, Seth, that Paul Heyman gets to be the advocate for Brock Lesnar and gets to run Raw? And Seth Rollins replied with, no, it's not. But if Heyman tries anything, he knows what I'm capable of. And so they're already kind of setting things up on social media. So even if it's not the plan to use them in the ring and in storylines, if Vince gets wind that all of this social media is happening, maybe he's going to put them there, and that's what I mean. Then they're not really in control anymore. Vince is still fucking getting his own kicks, his own laugh. Whatever amuses Vince, that's what he's going to go with. So it remains to be seen if they're going to be used in storylines or if they're just going to be backstage presences. Is Paul Heyman still going to be with Brock? As of now, we have heard nothing that he is separating from Lesnar. And we do know that Lesnar is under contract till after WrestleMania next year. So Lesnar will be going through another WrestleMania. Clearly, he's going to be in one of the title pictures. And I expect Paul Heyman to be with him every step of the way. I don't see how they split that up now, but I also don't think that's the right decision. You really want to make a distinction. Is he now a head lead creative backstage presence? Or is he, I can fucking speak, maybe I need another coffee, or is he just another personality on TV? You can mix the two, just do it the right way. I think that's it, right? I think we covered most of the Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff thing yesterday. That's the newest developments we have now, guys. We're hearing this is something that was been in the making for a while now. We're hearing Fox did not have a big presence in this deal. And as of right now, it looks like this could be for story 2. Like they could be used on air. Remains to be seen. Let's move on. CM Punk, he's back in the news as always, trying to get that money that he lost from all these lawsuits. CM has filed a countersuit against former friend Colt Cabana. He filed this on June 18th officially, so about a week and some change ago. Brooks, CM, Phil Brooks, is seeking $600,000 for general damages, as well as interest and legal fees in response to an amended lawsuit that Colt Cabana filed in August of 2018. Of course, this all started in 2015 when Phil Brooks took to, at the time, his friend Colt Cabana's podcast and spoke the truth about WWE's doctors, especially the clueless Chris Amon. A lot of people have said this guy is fucking clueless. And he ended up winning in court, so this guy remains clueless, I guess. Phil Brooks ended up winning the suit against WWE, and more specifically, Dr. Amon is who the suit was against, but WWE was backing this thing. Brooks ended up winning, but there was a massive falling out during this between Brooks and Cabana, former good friends. And that friendship was FUBAR. Fucked up beyond repair. I call that FUBAR. And that was just done. That friendship was... There's no rekindling that friendship. During this lawsuit, Cabana, or should I say, post-lawsuit, Cabana ended up suing Phil Brooks for breach of contract and fraud over legal fees related to the lawsuit. He claims Phil Brooks promised to cover legal fees, but failed to do so. Brooks said $1.2 million was enough. At that point, Phil Brooks said he covered $1.2 million between him and Cabana. Basically, it's an when is enough scenario. And Cabana's like, okay, I'm forever grateful for you for that. Thank you for the $1.2 million that you paid for both of us. But that didn't cover everything. You told me you're going to cover everything. You didn't say there was a cap limit. So Punk was like, no, there was a limit. That's it. Cabana's like, wait, I don't have the other fucking money. What are you doing? So Colt Cabana sued Phil Brooks after Phil Brooks just successfully sued Dr. Amon, basically WWE. So now we have all these lawsuits, and what happened was CM Punk, or Phil Brooks, he filed a countersuit to Colt Cabana's lawsuit against him. You guys keeping track? So now Phil Brooks is saying that, again, he's seeking $600,000 because he's saying that there was general damages in interest and legal fees that he doesn't feel he should be paying. $600,000. That ain't just spending money. That is a chunk of fucking change that'll keep you going for the next several years. CM Pink wants that back. So now we have basically, guys, that's a lot of legal terms and shit. That's just a lot of like shit that we just went over. Hopefully you guys kept track. The only thing you really need to know is Punk sued Dr. Amon, basically WWE, because they were backing Amon. CM Punk wins the lawsuit. Colt Cabana then sued CM Punk, Phil Brooks, and then now Phil Brooks is countersuing basically Colt Cabana. So we have a double lawsuit. They're both going to a battle we never thought we'd see between Cabana and Brooks. And that's where we are. Colt Cabana has until July 23rd. No, what am I saying? I just gave him 20 extra days. Colt Cabana has until July 3rd. So that's coming up in just a few days. July 3rd to respond to the countersuit. And then legally they decide where they go from there. What type of trial they really, or litigation they need to take from there. So Colt Cabana has a decision to make with his legal team, and they will make a response come July 3rd or beforehand. What is that? That is Wednesday, next Wednesday. This upcoming Wednesday. Wow. I mean, when you think of how good of friends Cabana and Brooks was, man, back in the day, to the point where after Phil Brooks left WWE, he didn't talk to anybody. He even had a falling out with Jericho because Jericho reached out and said, hey, you want to come on the podcast, man? You ain't got to say anything you don't want to. Just like talk like two friends. And Phil Brooks thought that Chris Jericho was just in it for himself. He did not want any part of it. Kind of stood Jericho up. I mean, he didn't say he was going to do it, but he basically just radio silenced Jericho. But then he comes up out of nowhere on Colt Cabana's podcast. This little, no offense to Cabana, but this little obscure podcast, for the most part, when you're talking about some of the bigger ones, and there's Phil Brooks to finally tell his WWE story. That's how much Brooks confided into Colt Cabana, and that's how good of friends they were. or we thought they were, man. Everything changes, right? Friendships, beings. They say every 7 years, human beings change. They turn into, they just fucking evolve. Some of their traits are still there and characteristics, and some of that will never leave them, but they just change, they evolve, and that's why friendships evolve, man. When you think about your high school friends, if you think about it when you get into your 20s or late 20s or even 30s and beyond especially, those friends dwindle, and it's not because their lives are taken or anything. It's because you just fall out of friendship with them. Or you try to rekindle it. Hey, Julie, fucking Stevie, well, I'm back in town. You wanna, fucking meet up for a coffee or something, and you start talking, and it's good to see them, but you realize, like, you're two different people now. You're two different paths. You have different goals, and you're no longer, like, just those friends that were just out to hang out, People evolve, friendships dissolve, there you go, dissolve over time, and it's sad, man. College friends, they'll go away as well, and you start to build new friendships where you work, if you're working at a place, and that's where you meet people that you're kind of in the same boat, and now your friendships in high school no longer seem relevant because you're just not in the same boat anymore, Oh, I'm going on a life journeys lesson here, right? I just got really fucking analytical about this. Let's get back on to these two, man. It sucks to see the two, and I've had a little bit of beef with Phil Brooks, not on a personal level, but just professionally. He doesn't like some of my videos, seeked me out on social media, and, just didn't like my vids on him. But I was just telling the truth, just like he was to Dr. Aman. Sometimes the truth hurts, and people do get offended. Brooks got offended over my videos. Dr. Aman got offended over Brooks' statements on him. Colt Cabana got offended by how Phil Brooks, his friend, treated him. Brooks is now offended by how Colt Cabana is treating him with a lawsuit, so he's countersuing. Everybody gets offended. Everybody gets their feelings hurt, and friendships and relationships devolve and dissolve. They just do. And it sucks. It's amazing to see how good of friends they once were and where we're at today with these two. Absolutely mind-boggling. That's where we stand, guys. We have a double lawsuit basically taking place. A lawsuit and a countersuit. And these two, once friends, are in a heated legal battle as we speak. What else, guys? You want to, what else we got? The ratings this week. It was post-stomping grounds, so obviously they were up, minuscule. And usually, if you think after a pay-per-view, you're hoping the ratings are way up, right? Put them a whole point, or at least half a point, right? Put a 0.5 up. They weren't, man. No, these were minuscule little uppings, and unfortunately for them, they were two fucking bad shows, and beyond if it was Monday Night Raw. And now what they have to do is put on some damn good television this week, because they're not going to get that upping percentage coming off the pay-per-view. You came off the pay-per-view, you got those ups, and then all of a sudden, you produced, as we all expected, some pretty horrible shows. What are you going to have to lean on as a crutch next week? You're not going to have a pay-per-view to fall out of. Now you're just a Monday Night Raw and a SmackDown at the end of June. In July. In fact, July 4th, right? Just before July 4th. Monday Night Raw's on the 1st of July. SmackDown's on the 2nd of July, man. People are traveling, for the 4th of July week. Parents are taking their kids on these little vacations for 4th of July. The numbers, guys, I'm telling you, just because it doesn't fall on 4th of July, they better get their shit together. Because if you're not captivating your crowd, your audience, from the first segment and giving us a reason to tune in for the following 3 hours on Raw or the next 2 hours on SmackDown, if you're not giving us that reason, and you're just going to parade out Kofi Kingston and say, wow, a 6-man 2 out of 3 falls match as the main event, and if you're just going to parade out Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin's going to come out, and you're just going to, fatal fucking, right, Rollins, who is it? The cast of characters, Rollins, Baron Corbin, you'll have Bobby Lashley, maybe Braun Strowman, right? Everyone's fucking insignificant at this point. Fatal 4-way, 2 out of 3 falls match with the final 2 competitors. So when it gets down to the final 2, now it becomes What are they gonna do to make this so mind-bogglingly confusing and stupid before they get the point? Nobody cares about this bullshit if we don't care about the characters, the superstars, the feuds, the storylines. If you don't captivate us with that, all these little gimmick matches aren't gonna matter. Just to make sure you get to commercials properly. Because Vince McMahon no longer wants to put commercials during the wrestling during the commercials. So he doesn't want his superstars actually wrestling while there's a commercial. It's bullshit. He wants to make it more like real competition, BC, like boxing or MMA. I don't give a fuck. It's not boxing. It's not MMA. It's pro wrestling. Wrestle during the commercials. We'll be fine. Just make sure there's not a winner or a loser during the commercial. I'm good with that. Fox is forcing them to do that, BC. There's no actual document or reputable fucking papers that I've seen that I have heard or seen that Fox is telling Vince to do this. Nothing at all. This is all coming from Vince McMahon. Nothing I have seen from Fox is telling me that. Alright guys, so I noticed that we're getting to that hour mark soon, so I think I'm gonna kind of wind it down there. The story that I was about to get into would have taken me about 20 minutes to get through it, because you guys know me. I start talking about these wrestling stories, and I can go on and on. I know you guys, a lot of you guys would love that, but I like to give you guys what I promoted, which is an hour podcast every week-ish, give or take a few minutes. And that way everyone like the Amplified Man can go about our business. Parents can take out their earbuds and pay attention to those pesky kids once more. Or not. They want to keep the earbuds in. BC, go another 2 hours. But I know we got stuff to do. We don't want to keep coming back to the podcast and watching it in segments. I got you. So I'll wind it down. I'll end this on a lighthearted note. Kind of a tweet that I put out on the Twitter machine, having some fun with Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. So I'll put that in kind of a video request now for Mr. Paul Heyman, Mr. Eric Bischoff. Please, on behalf of every professional wrestling fan, especially WWE around the world, we have one major request. Please take an extra hard look at certain talents that will be on your rosters. Talents like Ember Moon is her name. Kairi Sane, Asuka, Naomi. Just a few names that you might want to take a look at and say, there's something there. Why haven't they made anything of you yet? And while you're at it, can you take a look at some names over on the men's side like Andrade? Can you maybe do something with Samoa Joe? Because how he's been used has been absolutely mind-bogglingly, confusingly horrible from day one. Maybe do something with Samoa Joe. There's a concept. Maybe when Bray Wyatt finally starts wrestling again, instead of 50-50 booking him, which we know McMahon would do, maybe you can put him where he is supposed to be, the status where he is supposed to be at, which is superstar status. Because Bray Wyatt has the goods on all aspects and all areas. From the skills in that ring, to the mic, to the presence. This guy is a bona fide superstar. Let's make him such. I can go on, but these are just some of the names that you might want to take an extra hard look at and do something with them. On behalf of all the fans around the world, we'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. And to all my Amplified unit, I'm the Amplified Man. Thanks for joining me for the 22nd ever episode of the Amplified Podcast. Should we do it? We're a little calm now, right? I mean, that was one of those afternoon coffees that we kind of calmed down. But you know what? Let's give it to him. The Amplified Man saying, check you.